This is Ready, Set, Reiki, a podcast about Reiki, the universal energy life force. From the curious beginner to the seasoned master teacher, welcoming all systems, all lineages, and all levels. Reiki is a journey and not a destination. And on this Ready, Set, Reiki journey, we refer to ourselves as guides rather than hosts, as we too are traveling, supporting each other, and learning on this Reiki journey as well. With that said, I am your guide, Tracy C. Wright. And joining me on this journey today is Carolyn Coleridge. Now, she is a licensed psychotherapist who is an intuitive healer with 29 years of experience. She is licensed in California and Connecticut. She has appeared on CNN International, demonstrating energy healing, and appeared on the USA Network. She is a former faculty member of the Pediatric Pain Program at UCLA, a complementary alternative medicine program where she was a Reiki master. She has taught spirituality and mental health in a major HMO in California, helping people to find their soul purpose. She is also a meditation teacher on Insight Timer app. She is a clairvoyant, which means sees visions and hears messages from spirit. She has written 3 books, Honor Your Spirit, Soul Wisdom, and the workbook, How to Work with the Universe. She is a meditation mindfulness teacher, and she has just opened Conscious Creations Meditation and Healing Center in Bloomfield, Connecticut, where she sells crystals, New Age books, and teaches metaphysical classes, including intuitive development classes. Welcome, Carolyn, to Ready, Set, Reiki.
Oh, thanks for having me. Thank you so much.
Wonderful. So let's begin. So tell us a little bit about yourself.
Yeah, well, you've done a great job with the bio. So I've been doing this for a long time, 29 years, and I felt like I had a calling to become a healer and to do have spirituality in mental health. So originally, I grew up in a family where my father was a minister and my mother is a teacher, chemistry teacher. My mother had visions, though. She had dreams and she had visions and mediumship, and her ancestors used to come to her. So she normalized it. But she also won Teacher of the Year as the first Black woman to head a science department in Connecticut. So very well trained in Columbia as a science teacher, biology, physics. And my father became the first Black bishop of Connecticut, Episcopal, which is pretty conservative, because my mother had a vision. And she said, "You're going to be the first bishop of Black Bishop, Connecticut." He's like, "No way." And then within 2 months, people from Fairfield County came and supported him and said, "We love your spirit. We really want you to do this." So I've seen spirituality in my family for a long time. My father also was an MSW. So when I became a therapist, I just started to see visions. It wasn't really visions. I would see ghosts, actually. I was at Columbia and I would see them everywhere. And I went to a healer, an intuitive healer, and also a Reiki master. And she's like, "Well, you're supposed to incorporate healing with psychotherapy." And I'm at Columbia, the most conservative school. I said, "I can't do that. It's like out of the scope of practice. I can't touch clients, this." They're like, "I don't know how you're going to do it, but I see it. I see a vision." I was like, yeah. Then the ghost wouldn't leave me alone. So this other woman, Celeste Miola, Italian woman, said, "No, you have to incorporate this and spirit will lead you." So because I kept seeing ghosts and stuff, I went to a Reiki circle and I really loved the energy. I was like, "What is this?" And then when I worked on Wall Street in an employee assistance program, my manager said, "Wow, you have great energy. And you're really all this energy messages." So callings usually come in messages like energy, energy. So then eventually I became a Reiki master. No, I was Reiki 1 and Reiki 2 in New York. And New York is overwhelming with energy. And I didn't know what's, to do with it because I was just out of school, just doing an internship, and I couldn't really incorporate it until one of my clients came to me who was really, really depressed. And I was a new therapist, and she had a plan to kill herself. And she had an elaborate plan. And it was on, I don't know, like August in Manhattan, where everyone goes to, Long Island or the Hamptons, and there's no psychiatrists, no doctors around. So I was like so nervous. And I just decided, Spirit told me, I took a breath. Breathing is so important because breathing means spirit. And I heard, "Send her the chokeray." And I said, "Wow, I haven't heard that in a long time, maybe a couple of years." So I did. Without waving my hands, I just telepathically sent her the chokeray. And she was like, "Well, this is what I'm going to do, and I'm going to be dead." And she just stopped. And she said, "What did you do?" And I said, "I sent you the chokeray." She goes, "I felt this wave of peace." Now, I thought that was amazing. Like I was shocked. And then all of a sudden she contracted for safety. She felt like she had a mission. She felt calmer. She said, I'm being irrational. She was also alcoholic and all these different, difficulties, but I knew she was an old soul. There were so many levels. A gay woman, African American. She was an alcoholic. She had spent time in jail because she shot her husband because he tried to hurt her in a domestic violence because he found out she was gay. It was just like a lot. I said, this is a soul. So she felt that soul energy. And then she got better and she never did anything. And we worked for a while. And I said, I have to incorporate Reiki somehow in my practice. So just having it in my field and working as a therapist and being able to send them light or energy and to help them access that spirit in them because they feel it. People who are intuitive and empaths feel it. And it really helps. I believe that all nurses should become at least Reiki 1 or 2, because that would help heal the hospital, that like when they touch patients, putting in those mean IVs. It's such a healing, beautiful modality. So yeah, that's the beginning of my journey. Yeah.
Wonderful, wonderful. And, my background is also Episcopalian. So I was,
Really? So
yes, I baptized, confirmed, I was an
Wow.
acolyte. So what an
Oh,
amazing thing is to be in such, I don't want to color it rigid, but, it's
the
definitely
Episcopal Church.
a certain way of doing things that
Yeah.
your father and mother were so open to this and that you were open
Mm.
to this as well, coming from that, because it's almost like a dance a little bit as I'm out doing spiritual work, that you're reminded of that upbringing of how, nope, it
Yeah.
has to be this way. Right.
And
And then,
Connecticut's the oldest province in the United States. That's where the Episcopal
okay,
Church started.
sure,
So
sure.
he was the third in the country. And
Hmm.
Connecticut, where they created Yale Divinity School and all the
Yes.
pomp and stuff. So it was
Yeah.
very, very waspy, old money.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So I was in Western Pennsylvania, so I went to a
Ah,
church there. So
yeah.
yeah, and we got dressed up. It just when I look at how people dress for church now versus when I had to go, right? And I had
Right.
to get all fancy and wear pantyhose. Oh my goodness,
Funny, right?
Right,
Whoa.
right, right. And how beautiful that when you were working with that client, that it came to you, that choker symbol, because that's, the start of the Reiki, that's that protection. And
Hmm.
with that, sent that into that client and changed basically the whole trajectory of that person's journey. How beautiful is that?
100%. Yeah,
Wonderful,
it was
wonderful.
incredible.
Wow.
Yeah.
So would you say that Reiki found you, or did you find Reiki?
I think Reiki I think it's a combination. Just like when you're doing Reiki, it knows where to go. I think it knew where to go to me because when I worked on Wall Street as an EAP professional, employee assistance program in a very conservative company, the woman who ran it says, you have great energy. She kept talking about energy, energy, energy. And I'm like, what does she mean? And then she's like, well, look it up. She gave me a free, and this is a conservative company that had like Dean Witter's contracts, Skadden Arps, all these law firms, very, very Wall Street, 99 Wall Street. And she kept talking about energy. And actually later she told me she saw visions of which company to go for to present. And we all were into meditation and mindfulness and spirituality. This was 30 years ago. So yeah, so then what happened is she said, "We'll find a healing group." And I'm like, what does that mean? And I found a Reiki circle, and in Manhattan is intense energy. And I felt like it was a combination. Reiki called to me. I needed the energy, and I need to know how to protect my energy field and how to not get so drained in New York. Just
Yeah,
taking the D train from Manhattan down to Brooklyn, I was like, whoa, the energy is very intense. New York is on a ruby. So just having these Reiki symbols and energies and knowing how to smudge and sage and pray and ground, that really helped me with my practice for years. And
right.
working on Insight Timer, I have,
Oh,
this
yes.
grounding and protecting. And that came from Reiki. That came from energy healing. That came from readers, healers, and readers. We always have to, meditate, get our energy up to help
Yes.
be a translator of light. So all that helped me. So I think that maybe Reiki calls to us, and then we have to accept the invitation because I do believe it's a divine healing energy. 100%.
Absolutely, absolutely. When I work and train students online, I use a lot of like earth cams, video
Mm.
cameras. And one of the things that we work on as an exercise is a video camera of like Times Square. And we give it to Times Square so they can play with
Wow.
the energy. And then Bourbon, like in
Mm.
Bourbon Street, like New Orleans, we'll
Mhm.
bring up New Orleans and we'll bring Los Angeles in. So areas where the
Oh.
energy is supercharged, so they can get a sense of that. And then the last exercise, I put a live picture from NASA of the Earth, of the world, and we
Mm.
send the distance Reiki there so that they just get a feeling
Mm.
of it. And it's so interesting, students as they kind of cultivate that relationship with the energy, how they feel afterwards. They could feel like, ooh, it's this, it's that. So they're able to get a sense of it just with these locations. But I always found that New York just had this just higher frequency energy. When I visited there, I haven't been there in years though, but you could feel it. It is surely electric.
Yeah, that's beautiful trading. What a great,
Yeah.
inventive, creative way.
Yeah, that's the way that I do it, but just because there's so much energy on those particular areas where one, it's a tourist, but just so many coming,
Yes.
New York, hopes and dreams, Broadway, right? LA, I'm going to go be a star, right? And then New
Hmm.
Orleans, you have all that history there
Mm.
in the area, and people are coming for Mardi Gras, other reasons. But yeah, those places I like to focus on just to get a sense of the different types of energy they could feel and how,
You,
it's so unique.
you hit the hot spots.
Hit the
Those
hot
are the hot
spots.
spots.
Hit the hot spots. So, as a licensed psychotherapist, an intuitive
Mm.
healer of 29 years, clairvoyant, author, you've done all these amazing things on your journey. What is the common misconception about the work that you do?
Ah, that's good. That it's woo-woo, that it's out there, that it's strange, that it's that it's a scam. I got that more when I moved back home to Connecticut as
Yeah.
opposed to LA where everyone's going to a reader or healer.
Yes.
But and what I did is like spirit or even Reiki, though I consider Reiki like Holy Spirit healing too, because I incorporate both. And it really gave me an answer. So when I worked in mental health as an attentive outpatient therapist, and I said, "What about your spirit?" And I would hear crickets. So I said, it's part of the energy of you, more crickets. So I said, "What is energy?" And I said, "Have you guys ever said, as depressed patients in intensive outpatient mental health programs, I said, have you ever said that you're, burnt out, dead tired, drained, exhausted?" They're like, "Of course, yeah." And I said, "That's energy. Burnout is like elements. That's fire. You need more fire. Drained, you feel drained, you need water. Dead tired, you need earth, crystals, and then exhaust, you need air. Your breath means spirit. So I was able to normalize, not exactly scientific, but these are everyday words. So I said, this is not woo woo. This is our language that we have forgotten. We're spirits, and that our spirit needs to heal because our spirit, to me, is the gasoline in our soul vehicle, our car, to move forward in life. So Reiki is a powerful energy healing modality that stand the test of time to really help people to get more gasoline in their cars, so to speak.
Right, right, right. That's a wonderful way to describe it to people so that they can really get a sense of how this works, right? And there's no
Hmm.
wrong way to do it either. It's your intention, right?
Yes, yes.
Right.
Intention is part of the creative process. And I teach about creativity and my business is conscious creations. And getting your energy right is so important. So, getting a Reiki healing or working with the energies or understanding the history of how you see, how he became, like Reiki came to him. And, there's a lot of things out there, but it's really about being present for, to me, the divine. Like my message was at one point, from the source, like I can't touch all my children on earth. You can be a conduit of that light and Reiki, that light of energy healing of the life force.
Right, right, right.
Yeah.
And as you started your journey, just from, someone having a vision, taking Reiki classes, then elevating to teaching, author, now having your own business where you have the Conscious Creation Meditation and Healing Center. When you look back on this journey, what has been the biggest challenge or rather
Mhm.
struggle you have faced in your healing journey?
Oh, wow. So much. Oh, you guys take me back to my book, Honor Your Spirit. where ironically I was working at UCLA as a healer because I was called to do that. And that was a wonderful experience with a complimentary alternative medicine program called CAM. And I kind of sacrificed, to me, sacrifices to make sacred. I would go Wednesdays to rounds with two pediatricians, with a healing person. Myself was a healer, and craniosacral, and then we had a therapist, and we had an acupuncturist and meditation teacher, yoga, to help kids in chronic pain. So I was doing that and I loved it. And it was like my dream, you know. But then I had a pretty bad fibroid tumor and I was still young and I wanted to have children. So I went into different healing modalities. And one was, you know, really activating my Reiki, etc. So at one point I got surgery, and this is the challenge. And I got surgery and I almost died in the hospital because of hemorrhaging and bleeding, etc. So I was taking out the Reiki symbols and sending it to myself, like in the future. It was one of those horrible experiences where they did everything wrong. They made a mistake when I went into the hospital because it happened on the East Coast, even though it's the same company that I worked for. And they had me down as no insurance. So they didn't treat me that well. So it was a horrific experience. But what's interesting is that I knew what they were doing wrong because I worked med surg, I worked ICU, I worked in the hospital, and I was part of a healing, you know, system there. So yeah, I worked at UCLA, but then I worked for another, you know, large hospital facility. So it was horrific. And I had an out of body experience. I went partly to the other side, not all the way, at 38, and I saw my life review. And it wasn't, yeah, it was one thing I remember is like, oh, I'm not done here. I feel like I was in kindergarten. I'm like, I've been helping people do healing at a hospital, and I've done this and I've done that. I moved across country to California to do mind body, and I got on panels and wrote, you know, started to write books. No, hadn't written my book yet because I had to write it after that, but just wrote a lot of articles. And I was like, why? Like, why would this happen? And in the hospital. And again, I mean, it was like 18 counts. I'm not a lawyer, but they did so many things wrong. They didn't give me blood at the right time, transfusions. So I almost died. I felt freezing, all these different things. And I put it out there in my mind, like, why are they treating me so badly? And I heard God in my head, as clear as could be, I want you to help me transform hospitals. And I looked around to my mother and my sister. I said, "You hear that?" They're like, "No." It reverberated around. And I was like, can't you send me an email, a Gmail, instead of God mail, instead of trying to kill me? So, and then after that, I kept hearing God's voice, and it just upped the ante of what I was supposed to do with Reiki and healing. And that was always the staple. I may do other, you know, healing modalities like Theta. I always went back to Reiki. It's like the center point. So that was a real challenge because then they did so many things wrong. I could have sued the hospital, and God was very clear, no. I was like, I had a 30K bill, same place I worked for, and across the country. And I was like, why? Why? Humility is the opening to higher spiritual gifts. And my gifts got stronger after that, also going to the other side. And there were so many experiences. Like when I came back into my bed, I had all these people surrounding my bed into my body. And I was like, who are these people? And they're like, they came shuffled up and they said, we died in this hospital. You got to help us. I'm like, who are these people in my room? And they were spirits. And I was like, oh boy, here comes the mediumship. And I was like, well, get away. I need to heal. And they said, you got to help us. You got to help us. And I started doing other things, but that's when my mediumship started opening up. But again, doing the Reiki symbols on myself and healing. And I ended up, my oxygenation rate was 50%. I should have had, I had 3 blood clots. I had PE post that. I had to go to ICU. It was just horrible. It was bad. And I was there 7 days and I felt like it was like Holy Spirit Hospital, Holy Grail. I forgot the name of it. It's blanked out. But I shouldn't even say it. And it was almost like a trial by crucifixion, you know? Mm-hmm. So, but I should have had brain damage and I survived, you know? And I realized that God brought me back to do more spiritual work, antics, and then whatever I can do, you know. And when I ended up working at a major hospital, the same hospital, I had to go back. And I started teaching eventually about chakras and energy and crystals and healing in a major hospital every week. I taught mindfulness, meditation. I wanted people to find their purpose. So that, trauma became a triumph. And I teach people about that a lot of times that the most worst experiences, there's a lesson and a teaching. Every test is a testimonial to your journey in life. And I've really tried to honor the Reiki that was the original and the Holy Spirit in my work. Yeah.
Wonderful, wonderful. Well, I'm glad you're here.
Yeah.
You came out on the other side and
Yes.
that you chose the path to continue with service because it could have went another way, right? And you
Yes.
chose the light. You chose to move forward and use this to help and serve others. So thank you for that.
100%. Yeah. And that's the hard part. And that's how my gifts got, when you choose the higher path, my gifts got
Mhm.
stronger. I started
Yeah.
getting more stronger
Yeah.
visions, etc.
Yeah. Yeah. And choosing love
Oh,
instead of getting lawyers involved. So
well, yeah, no lawyer would take the case because I had 100% healing, which wasn't
yes,
like, why did she have 100% healing? And then later, when I was teaching in classes, people would say, well, this hospital treated me badly, or this happened, or it's just about the money and blah, blah, blah. And I could testify what I went
sure.
through. And then I got another message. It was like 2005. And God said, I said, what's all this, what I need to do? And he said, you'll see in 15 years, like just kind of, whoop. And
Yeah.
that was 2020.
Right. And I love it how you have guides helping you. I mean, telling you,
Yeah,
15 years.
I
That's,
know. And
it
I
was
just like let it go. And then all of a sudden I said, oh my God, I remember. It was just right when I was really like, God's voice is stronger when you're closer to the other side, at least for me.
for
And
sure.
then it
Yeah.
just kind of like faded away and I kind of almost forgot. Um, and then it just came, I was like, oh my gosh, this is what he was talking about. But again, I was like, Gmails are fine, emails are fine. Just oh,
Right, right, right. Or
yeah.
send me a
Oh,
text, right?
yeah, right. Something. Yeah. Text from God.
There you go.
Yeah.
So, what do you wish your younger self knew about your current profession?
Whoa. Oh, wow. That's a great question. Younger self. Wow. Ooh, wow. That's a great question. I think, it's hard because I did so many different things that I think that everything I went through led me to this point at this time. Because I wasn't into I was 28 when I went to get my master's, but I worked on Wall Street. No, before that, yeah. I didn't, no, before I became that, I worked on the Hill,
Yeah.
Negrona Wilder. And so when I watched what's going on, I was like, oh, yeah, I've been in the Senate buildings and da 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 da. And then I worked as a paralegal and I understand legalities, but all these things. I worked as a marketing assistant for economics research firm. So I understand how to market my business and I understand how energy is different in different environments. But I would say, go with your heart. Whatever you're going through, listen to your heart over your mind. It took me a while until, maybe a little bit later when I did that. No, I did it probably after 24 or so when I had a health issue. But listen to your heart over your mind if you want a higher spiritual path, and as people get their BAs, I think that people should get their, if they want to, they should get their Reiki 1 or 2, because I really feel it helps so many understand energy, like how you were talking about different environments,
Oh, yeah.
dynamics, energy of people. These are souls, it's like a staple. And I really believe that if they can, I mean, there was a woman who did therapeutic touch in hospitals, but they can get people to do Reiki 1 in nurses who touch people all the time. Nurses have the hardest job. What a different paradigm shift it would be for healing in hospitals.
Absolutely. Absolutely. My background is an elementary teacher, and I always think what a different world it would be if the teachers had this, the preschool, the kindergarten teachers, as they're in school and were able to teach students this. What a difference it would make that the teach how you do the mindfulness. How
Yes.
that would change the trajectory of these students. I mean, with COVID and the anxiety that's out there, so much
Oh,
anxiety. I mean, you meet
yes.
these depressed, anxious, worried, panic attacks.
Mm,
Needs to be a shifting.
Yes, absolutely. And if they could learn like head over heart, the little kids, and
Mm-hmm.
they're so into energy when they're little. I
Oh,
don't like
sure.
that, man. They were
Sure,
right. I
sure,
don't like that.
sure,
So it would, maybe we both are we've been put in these positions to
sure.
bring that light in
Yeah,
different
and
ways.
I've been teaching for 30 years, and
Wow.
I've
Wow.
watched as the children got younger and younger and the technology was there. So 18 months old, they had an iPad. The children don't, to just sit and be quiet and go inward is so
Yes.
difficult for them
Yeah.
because it's
Mhm.
constant. Phone, iPad,
100%.
television,
Yes.
Netflix, things like that. They can't calm the mind.
$100%.
So young to be having
Yes.
this.
That's why mindfulness centers have been popping up everywhere. I remember my client brought in her 2-year-old at a session. I said, "You really shouldn't bring her in." She goes, "Oh no, she'll be on her phone." She's like swiping and
See,
upload. I'm like, "Two, what?" And I had 13 channels when I grew up. I had to get up and turn the
okay,
channel and sit down. And now
absolutely.
there's 1,000.
Of
Yes, the
course.
energy that's coming towards
Hmm.
them is overwhelming.
Constant. It's constant. And if they don't
Yeah.
like it, it's an immediate change, shifting. They can't sit in it and just be in the experience to learn to
Mm-hmm.
push through it. If they don't like it, move on.
It's a
It's,
great point.
hmm
Mm-hmm.
yeah, and it
Right.
changes that chemistry of your brain. Yeah.
Yes. Oh, absolutely. And then what about, just connecting? They're missing their soul. They're being
Yes.
taught, being, programmed, like
Hmm.
programming instead of like listening to their heart.
Yeah.
They should have them run out in nature. I mean, kids don't run
Yes.
outside anymore
Nope.
as much,
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
my client's kid was like, I just did a workshop in LA and he was running around and running around. She's, "Oh my God, I think he has ADHD." I was like, "He's 3. This is normal." And
Yeah.
then he kept running and I just said, "I think he has a lot of energy." And this
Hmm.
is like, we just haven't seen it because kids are
Of
not like when
course.
we were younger, we were outside running and
Yeah.
it's, mhm.
Yeah. We were outside playing kickball, going on the swing,
Yeah.
the seesaw,
Hide
the
and
slide,
seek,
riding our bikes, come back when the street light
dodgeball.
comes on, so.
Right, right. Are you dinner?
Right, right. So when
Yeah.
it's time for you to get an energetic tune-up or when you are seeking a energy teacher, what are some qualities you look for in a Reiki practitioner,
Hmm.
Reiki teacher, or energy healer?
Ah, right. Good point. Reminder to me, reminder to self that I need to get my own healing. Because you can neglect that as a healer yourself. But
Absolutely.
integrity, 100%. If you don't have integrity, forget it, integrity, honesty. And I like somebody with a spiritual connection, like a deep one,
Yes.
not just testimonials, but when you meet them, how's their energy? How are they feeling? How what's their history, like what I like about my story, like on LinkedIn I have 100 testimonials and I don't pay for them, and then I have a lot of testimonials, but it's like, but how does somebody feel with me? And I always say, just like as I would when I'm looking for a Reiki teacher, if I don't feel it, walk away. Like if you don't feel connected to me, that's okay. And I'm at the point where some people want healing or clairvoyance. I said your spirit is very sacred, so you have to feel comfortable with who I am, or I have to feel comfortable. And maybe there's karma, maybe there's a bad match. I honor your spirit. That's one name of my book. What you feel is right. And I think that's integrity is so important. Not a quick fix, not, lies or manipulation. I hate those like that heavy sell that's that manipulation, which is about lying just to get somebody to hook in. And I've been lucky. I was on the LA. I did very well. Then I moved back east, and it's a little different here, but I'm still, working and creating, but still holding that integrity, because that's when the light gets stronger. That's when the Holy Spirit steps in, because the Holy Spirit actually came to me. This is a great little story. I had to teach when I worked at UCLA as a healer. One of my clients recommended I go to Children's Hospital of Orange County and to teach about how to do healing on kids, because it's a pediatric pain program at UCLA. So when I was going, they were all psychologists and it was their team meeting. And I was a little nervous. And I said, how am I going to help them to understand this? Because it's very, in Orange County, California is very conservative. So I said, God, this is your mission, my mission that we are co-creating together. Help me. And then I felt to teach so they can hear. And I felt this energy come inside of me and like hit all my chakras. And I was like literally like a wind. And I was like, what was that? And I realized it was the Holy Spirit. And ever since then, I was never afraid to speak in front of people. And they really were open, even with their scientific studies and this and that. And we were going to do some scientific studies that there's plenty out there on Reiki. But it was just well received. And I said, I asked God and I got an answer. And I think having have done Reiki, but having that extra energy of the Holy Spirit of the divine, that really helped me to, present the truth. And it holds me to a higher level. Because if I don't, I think it will go away. Not Reiki, but this, the higher spiritual energy.
Sure. So what advice would you give someone who is just entering this profession?
As an energy healer, as a Reiki healer, well, to find, again, like we had just talked about, great teachers, to see the energy, check your energy every day. I, little bias, meditate regularly. When you meditate, you upgrade your healing energy. Of course, a lot of Reiki masters meditate. So meditate so you can connect to your spirit. This is a spirit-led type of profession or calling. What is your calling? Do you feel right to do it? I have a lot of healers. There's like, I don't want to do it for other people, just for myself. Trust whatever is right for you. So really to kind of listen to your inner soul, connect, journal, spend time in nature. One of the best healers is nature. And to really make a commitment with Reiki, with spirit, with whoever, if it's Kuan Yin or Lakshmi, or the Quran, whatever it is, make a commitment with healing and being a healing conduit of light for the divine. And if that doesn't resonate with you, create your own, but stay in integrity. Really important. Yeah.
Okay. So what books do you recommend? I know you are author of 3 books, and we'll talk about that a little bit later, but what other books do you recommend?
Wow. Ooh. Well, I still love William Rand's, Reiki magazine. I still think he's amazing. He keeps doing that. I just read I just sent an article that got published a couple of months ago because I did Reiki on my dad. My dad got COVID and he survived. Yeah. My distant healing, I did it from California, so I didn't throw that in, but that was another great experience where I did distance healing because I couldn't fly. My father would be like, were you here, Carolyn? I was like, no, I wasn't here. And he survived COVID with cancer, with sarcoidosis of the lungs, with a blood clot, and with what's the other one? Blood clot, sarcoidosis of the lungs, pneumonia. Every lung issue, I sent Reiki, and he got out of the hospital, and he lived 2 more years. And he's like, were you here? The books I recommend. It's funny because I just lost this, but I came out of bath and here. You Can Heal Your Life. One of the best books ever. Louise Hay. You Can Heal Your Life. Love the book, and about how energy gets stored in your body and it creates dis-ease. There's so many books. I can't even. I love metaphysical. I'm more metaphysical, like how to co-create. I love Catherine Ponder with a C, and I just saw she was 96. She's still around. Catherine Ponder's book, Dynamic Laws of Healing. There's so many. My God, I can go on and on. Chocoré. I mean, I like, what is that other book I was thinking of besides my books? There's a lot of good books. Oh, I know. Candace Pert, P-E-R-T. She more talks about the opiate, and she passed away several years ago, but she has some wonderful books. I'm on Judith Orloff, who's an empath and intuitive healer, or LOFF. She has empaths really need Reiki. They're open to energy, and she's really talked a lot about that in her books. There are 6 or 7 books she has now, an intuitive empath's guide. So there's a lot of great books out there. There's so much more that I can, yeah.
Wonderful. And for our listeners, Reiki Magazine, you can get that at reiki.org, and you can order your copy. It also comes in physical. It comes in digital. So you have had articles in there, and I have as well. And what's great about this is it keeps you current. And you want to be relevant with this. So things do shift and change, even with legislation. That's important as well.
Mhm.
So William always kind of is having a little group that kind of keeps their eye on things. So if you
Mhm.
want to know what's happening or maybe a new way of doing something and you're not much of a reader, you can check out that magazine. So that's a good resource to have.
And can I say something about the Holy Spirit Reiki, Holy
Holy
Fire?
fire. Yes. Yes.
So I went to Sedona every year when I was in California,
Hmm.
and Reiki has always been there. I've always used it myself. And I was at a place up in Sedona, and these people are talking about holy fire, Reiki, and I was like, okay, another Reiki, blah blah blah. Like I love the standard one, and I was a
Sure.
little skeptical, but Reiki taught me. So I ended up going down to. I said, okay, I'm in Sedona, teach me. All right. So I went down to this place called the Rock Shop. It's no longer there. I met this young guy, and he was from Pennsylvania. He was a Mennonite, and he talked about, and there's like a farmer. He talked about the earth. We just started chatting, and I was just like, he goes, I said, I'm Rick Max. He goes, oh, I just got into Holy Spirit, Holy Fire Reiki, and I was like, oh, that's really. He goes, well, I had the weirdest experience. I was doing, Reiki, and all of a sudden, at the end of the bed of the Reiki table, this flame came up. And it was so real. I just asked, and he's saying, and the flame was Christ was in there.
Hmm.
And he said, and they took me around the universe and he floated around and he's like, and then I came back and the guy said, I feel incredibly healed. And I was like, okay, Reiki taught me, like, don't doubt, it's there. But I
Yes.
thought that was to meet somebody right there. I love the fact he had his hands in the earth
Hmm.
and he was a farmer. And he goes, yeah, that's all I wanted to say. And I was like, oh,
Right.
wow.
Right.
Thank you, Reiki.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's
Mhm.
so many different systems out there, and there's not one that's better than the other. They all have different frequencies, but it really what resonates for you with that. And as an empath myself, I
Mm.
always resonated with the Azui Holy Fire because I
Mm.
could feel it everywhere. And because of my
Ah.
religious upbringing, it's not religious, it is spiritual, but you can bring in God, Jesus, Holy Spirit if you choose. I mean, anyone doing any Reiki, you make it your own. So you can bring that
Mhm.
in. But for me, it really resonated with Holy Fire.
And the Episcopal Church actually has a healing ministry. I
Yeah.
didn't know that. Somebody like
Yeah.
educated me, and
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
found a book from one from Connecticut was a minister who was doing Reiki.
Sure. Sure.
Yeah.
And then I
Hmm.
think when you just mentioned that, I believe part of the logo on the church we had a flame on it as well, now that I think
Ah,
back.
yeah, yeah. They have a whole spiritual healing ministry, was I wasn't aware of growing
Sure.
up, but yeah.
Sure. Sure. So, where can we find you? Are you online, in person? If someone is interested in a session or service, how can they get in touch with you?
Yes. So my website is www.intuitivesoulhealing.com. And then I'm on Instagram, and it's Conscious Creations is my business in Connecticut. Conscious Creations in Connecticut, on Instagram. And also on Facebook, I have a group called How to Work with the Universe. That's free, and I post different things and classes. I'm also an Insight Timer. And that's an app you can download, and I have several meditations up there for free. I do classes here and perform and teach classes here in Connecticut. I also do a lot of distance healing, and people have, been very surprised at how powerful it is. A lot in California, and but you can just contact me on from my website, ask for a distance healing session, or come in person. I have a wonderful crystal healing room. I sell crystals, and I also sell spiritual books. And my crystal healing room is surrounded with selenite crystals. And I just really think it's a precious healing to honor and heal somebody's spirit and actually help activate their own healing qualities within them. Just being a channel and a conduit of their own journey. Yeah.
All right, wonderful. Well, this ends our first part of the journey, and I'm going to continue on the journey with you again, where I have 3 social media questions for you. So listeners send in questions, and I narrow it down to 3 just for you. So let's begin that part of the journey. So our first question, in your 29 years of experience, what is the one thing that you have learned on your journey as a licensed psychotherapist, intuitive healer?
to listen to people's spirit more so. Therapy works with a personality. Reiki and healing and intuitive work is the spirit. The spirit is the guiding force in people. We cannot, I think you want to heal somebody at a deep level, work with their spirit, understand your own, speak spirit to spirit, and to really listen to the soul and the spirit of somebody. And as you connect to yours, you can hear theirs easily. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Beautiful, beautiful. Now, you are the author of 3 books, Honor Your Spirit, Soul Wisdom, and the workbook, How to Work the Universe. So how to work with the universe. Can you tell me a little bit about each of the books?
Yes, Honor Your Spirit is my path as a licensed therapist going to conservative school, and how the universe was teaching me along the way to really listen to my intuition, my heart, and to create a journey of co-creating with therapy and Reiki. Reiki was the body, therapy was the mind, and intuitive work was the spirit, mind, body, spirit. And that's what I wanted to do, but I didn't know how it would come together, and it did. And spirit has protected me. So I talk about that journey in that book. Honor your spirit and listening to your own wisdom, finding your purpose, and walking your path. Um, Soul Wisdom is, I work newsletters for about 15 years. I still send out my newsletters. You can sign up for that on my website. And it's something inspirational, and it just has them all compiled with empath, intuition, healing, and it's one of those mindful books where you can just open it and then read a little paragraph and be inspired for the day. So that's Soul Wisdom, sorry. And then how to work with the universe is when you work with the universe, you understand your soul path. So that's a workbook that goes with Honor Your Spirit and helps people understand totem animals, numbers, energy signs, and to kind of journal and work with themselves to open up their own spiritual path and intuition and their own messages that they get day to day.
Perfect. So those are 3 more books for recommendations
Yeah.
to put into your bookcase. There you go, your bookshelf.
Yes.
And the third question is, congratulations on opening your center, the Conscious Creations Meditation and Healing Center in Bloomfield, Connecticut. Can you tell me about your center and what you're currently offering?
Yes. So I love the fact that it was just coincidentally, my dad lived in Bloomfield. This is where your soul can bloom, as you know, we're all seeds. So I love the name. Yeah. And I have meditation. I'm going to set up my schedule. It's in May. We're starting 11 o'clock meditations to just come and sit. And I'll be doing classes. This Sunday, I'm doing a class for Mother's Day. I'm motherless. Women that don't have mothers. So we're doing self-nurturing, self-healing with Mother Earth. But I also do Reiki, and we're gonna have a Reiki share. I've been traveling, so I'm like re-putting in my classes there. And then also various different classes. I'm gonna have sound healers come, working with setting up sound healers. I actually meditations, teaching. I do theta healing also. It's a wonderful healing modality. The woman from Idaho, now she's in Montana, Viana Steibel, and we shift beliefs on the soul level, past like ancestral genetic, really powerful, along with the Reiki. So that's what I'll be offering here. So just check my website and Instagram. I send out regular information on that.
Perfect. So those are our 3 questions. But as we've been talking, is there anything that you may have forgotten to add or you'd like to share for our listeners? Take this opportunity now to, share anything that you'd like us to know.
I didn't talk much about my clairvoyant, and that's really gotten stronger. It seems so, clairvoyant, but really is that God gave me the ability to see visions of people's lives. So it's just being really quiet and seeing what their next steps are, or seeing visions of who they are. And that's been a gift, and I hold sacred. It's gotten stronger in this last 4 or 5 years. So I highly recommend a reading to help people find where they're going. I am very spiritual. I grew up Episcopalian, but I do connect to the divine and meditate. So I hold that sacred. And I also want people to really, really, listen again, heart over mind, heart over mind. This is the time of it. Another class I've been teaching and traveling with teaching is Divine Feminine, which is women are the natural creators on the planet. We're on an earth, we're on a female earth. We have to honor that. And women have the vessel, their uterus of creating life and creating different things and helping women to understand their powerful mission connected to the moon cycles, connected to the soul, and connected to the planetary system that just came in. So I'm going to be teaching that around. So listen to your heart. And everyone, male and female, I don't care who you are, we're all creators. So we're in the Aquarian age. So start creating something in your life, and the universe will meet you and guide you.
All right. Is there any other modalities that you do that you maybe forgot to share about as we've been talking?
I do Reiki, of course, and pranic healing, part of that too. Prana is the Indian word for energy, life force. Reiki is, the Japanese word ki. And I do theta healing, which I mentioned, which is a meditative healing modality. I do in therapy, shifting people's beliefs on a soul level. And a lot of testimonies on LinkedIn are from doing that. It's all about energy, because I want to, just say therapy is energy. Like how you work with the energy of a soul, of a person, of the history. These younger souls are so overwhelmed with energy. And if they understand, like we had talked about, like understanding their energy on a different level, they can really start shifting their lives. What is right? What is wrong? No, I should go right. I should go left. So those are the main modalities I do in terms of
Okay,
healing.
perfect. Thank you, Carolyn, for joining me on this journey. I really appreciate you taking time out of your very busy schedule to join me.
Thank you so much for having me. It's been an honor.
Thank you. All right, my wonderful listeners, if you have a question, you'd like it submitted here, reach out at www.readysetreiki.com and social media, and perhaps your question can be featured on Ready Set Reiki. Also, I invite you to reach out to Feather Sister Wellness. It is a online program, an online format that offers yoga trainings, Reiki, and Reiki training. So a wonderful variety of classes with Feather Sister. So my name is Tracy Seawright, and this has been Ready Set Reiki.